Hello and welcome back to SAFC Fan TV. Today, Sunderland have released a list of players who have both been offered a new contract for next season, those who haven't have been subsequently released. Those set to stay are Aidan McGeady, Denver Human, Luke O'Neill, whilst contract negotiations are still ongoing with Charlie White. Callum McFadzean, Josh Scowen, Conor McLaughlin, Roy Matthews, Max Pelt and Grant Lebanon, on the other hand, have all not been offered a new contract. I am joined by Conrad to discuss this news, give all our thoughts on it. Conrad, how are you getting on it here?
Yeah, not so bad. It was just, I was quite glad they've actually put this out as soon as they have, just because it was, even like Michael Bowers was saying, it's like, don't wait around until middle of summer to get this done. Let's start planning now, which looks like they're trying to do.
Yeah, well, obviously we got knocked out of the playoffs only a matter of days ago, and now we've got the full summer to prepare. Got the entire transfer window to bring players in, so I think it's good we've done it early. Well, we'll kick things off with what's, in my opinion, the biggest talking point of the day. Chris Maguire, no longer a Sunderland player after 3 consecutive seasons at the club. It's given us some great memories, let's be honest, in what's been an awful time to follow the club over the last few seasons. Conrad, on an emotional level, a bit sad to see him go, really.
Yeah, I think he was everyone's sort of what's the word, like, he was a fan favourite, wasn't he? Especially when he came in. Some of the goals he got. I mean, I even remember the handball he scored at Accrington that was disallowed because the game was stopped because of the rain, where he he just ran past the Accrington fans, just mugging them off, which is just exactly just what you wanted from him. Or at Doncaster away in our first season, where him and Coppinger are fighting over the ball, so he just picks him up and carries him around the pitch. It's just different. He's just a character, wasn't he? And it's just something we'd been lacking for a good few years anyway. Just someone with a bit of personality on the pitch, and of course he could come up with an absolute worldie. My personal favourite being the Portsmouth semi-final playoff one, where he absolutely leathered it in, where, even though we should have probably been further ahead there. But yeah, I will be sad to see him go, but it's not a surprise based on his lack of an impact this season.
Yeah, well, you said it there. That's probably one of my favourite moments as being a Sunderland fan, to be honest with you. I know it's been quite a short period of time anyway in comparison to most, but yeah, there was just something about that game, and things weren't really falling for us. We've had a few chances, a few half chances, and things just weren't working out for us. Remember, Honeyman had a header, and McGillivray did really well to save it, and we desperately needed a goal, and it was the only goal over the 2 legs that had sent us to Wembley. And I think, I was just saying there, I think Chris Maguire, I'll always look back on fondly. You'll always get a clap from me at the Stadium of Light. We'll always wish him the best luck, and I am on an emotion, having a bit sad to see him go, but I wasn't expecting him to stay, to be honest. Regardless of what your opinion on him is, I just don't think Lee Johnson fancied him, in all honesty, and I don't think he was his type of player. I do think he wasn't utilised enough, to be perfectly honest, throughout Johnson's time. Look, maybe things went on behind the scenes, and ultimately I don't think Johnson saw him as fitting in his system of having forwards who can be a bit more physical and press a bit more. I think that's why Aidan O'Brien got a bit more game time, because he can get about the pitch a little bit more. But I still think he was underutilised, and particularly as a super sub, he could come on and change games. And in particular, in big games, he always had that ability to just change a game in an instant. The Portsmouth game being one in particular. I remember there was another game, Ipswich at home in our second season in League One. Yeah. Towards the end of the game, we desperately needed a goal, and who popped up with it at the edge of the box? About 10 minutes left. Chris Maguire. It was on the half volley into the bottom corner. Overall, would you, if you were in charge, would you have given him another year?
No, I probably no, because again, it's like, based on this season, he didn't contribute enough. Granted, even though quite a few of us have said we wouldn't play him as much as this season there, we've never once said that we wouldn't sort of bring him off the bench for half an hour, 20 minutes to nick us a goal. We're not claiming he wasn't a good player. We're just saying we had better options from the start, and people who at times were producing more than him there. I know he scored a penalty against Plymouth. Obviously, he scored his worldie against Crewe earlier on in the season, and he scored a couple of penalties again early part of the season, and he got us back in the game against Bristol Rovers at home. But okay, there's a few, but like McGeady had half a season and probably did 2-3 times as much as him within that time frame on there. No, I wouldn't have done. But I think there's also be a bit of me that thinks, because he was on his wage from the first season we came down, he'd probably be on a decent wage for League One. And I know we've got no salary caps anymore. I think it's just a case of, yes, KLD's got more money, but we're trying to be a bit smarter now with our money. So we can probably go, well, actually, we don't need to pay you X amount of money to do this. Like, it's the same with Max Power, because I think he's on about 4,000, I think I remember seeing a week or something like that there. So, not millions compared to like some of the Premier League players, but it's still a fair amount you'd sort of imagine over them. Yeah, for League One. So you're sitting there going, and he's not even close to being one of the best midfielders in that league, who are probably on less than him. So why not take this opportunity to go, okay, well, let's try and, be a bit smarter with our money and try something new.
Yeah, in all honesty, I think if I was in charge, I would have still kept Maguire around. With Johnson as the head coach, probably not though. I think if we had a different manager or a different head coach and someone who preferred him, definitely. But with Johnson, I don't think he was going to get any minutes. That's down to Johnson above anyone else. But I still personally would have liked to see him stick around. If Johnson wasn't here, because I do think he can be quite a valuable asset. But if he's not going to get any minutes, then there's no point paying him. Let's face it, will be a decent.
How old is he? He's 31, 32.
I want to say he's in his early 30s, 31, 32.
Yeah.
He's still got a few years left in him, and I'm sure he'll go on and have a great career after this and go to, and I really hope he does. I hope he goes to, maybe another club now, a division, maybe he goes back to Scotland, wherever he goes. I really do hope he has a really good end to his career, and I'll always look back on him fondly. I think it's Johnson above anything else. I just don't think he likes him as a player. I still think if we had a different manager, things would have worked out differently. On to Max Power, then you did just mention him. He seems to divide quite a lot of opinion among fans. But to be fair, he's played a lot of games under Lee Johnson, being quite an important part of the squad, and notably covered defence a lot, right back and centre back. Personally, I wouldn't have. But do you think another year was warranted?
It's a hard one with Max Power, because I think the only reason I wouldn't is just based on the fact that I think there's better out there for us to get than him. I said before, you look at any centre midfielder, there's loads of centre midfielders in League One that you've probably gone, he's better than Max Power, or he can do a job better than Max Power. Maybe not utility-wise as many positions as he played, but we've never sat there on any of our seasons and gone, Max Power's been midfielder of the season or needs to be in team of the season or anything like that. None of us have done that. I think he had a great first half of his first season with us. And then after that red card debacle where he had 3 in about 5 months, he never was quite the same player again. And 2 of those were rescinded. And the one at Oxford, I still maintain it isn't a red card for a tactical foul in the centre circle. You can't you can't give a straight red for that. And then he just wasn't the same player under Parkinson. And then under Johnson, he has been better, a bit more like what we'd expect from him. He definitely sort of, like you said, even filling in at right back or even playing in the midfield, he's been better. But I just think there's better. I just think we can get better. I'm not saying we need to be pulling players out from like mid-end championship, bottom-end championship. I'm just saying there's probably better even in League One or even in Scotland, where we tend to get some players from that we could do that are better than him.
Yeah, I must say I do agree with that. I do think he improved under Lee Johnson. I feel as if Parkinson held him back a bit, and I think it was largely down to the system we're playing with the wing backs, where we essentially had in most games a front 3 of Wyke, Gooch and Maguire was often the 3. You then had the 2 wing backs bombing forward, and then often you'd find Jordan Willis would be going forward. Even Tom Flanagan, to an extent, would push up just into that midfield a little bit. When we were going forward, we did have bodies going forward, and I think it was him and Dobson were mainly playing in the midfield.
Sorry, I forgot about him.
Nothing bad said about George Dobson. But I think the 2 of them were kind of just forced into sitting back and not really pushing forward. And I think you get the best out of Max Power when you give him a free roam. You allow him to go forward, get into the final third, get into the box, take a few pot shots, spray a few passes about. But I think under Parkinson, he was just kind of used to recycle the ball. And, as soon as the ball came out, he passed it off to one of the wing backs or to a fellow midfielder or defender.
You just reminded me when he said pop shot just at the end of the Lincoln game, where we had like 5 minutes left and we were just like, right, just get the ball in. And he just tried a shot from like 45 yards out, and you're just like, just not that, mate, not now. That's not the time for that.
He definitely screamed and had forced to Gerrard before that one left.
In his head, he was just like, he was just replaying everything like that. He could just hear Andy Gray going, "What a hit, son," in his head, couldn't he?
But ultimately, whilst I do think he got a bit better under Johnson, in my opinion, he's had 3 years to prove himself, and he's proved himself is not good enough. I've not got nothing against the bloke, and I think similarly to Maguire, I really do.
He's your mate. You met him on the beach that time.
Well, exactly. What even walked past him and said hello.
Yeah.
I do hope he goes on to have a successful remainder of his career. That's only about 27, I want to say, roughly. So he's got plenty of years left. He's probably coming up his prime. Nothing against him. I just don't think he quite cuts the mustard, in all honesty. On to Charlie White, then, one of the players who we are trying to retain, it seems. In contract negotiations, I don't think the contract's been put on the table. I think we're trying our best. Let's be fair, he's bagged us absolutely loads of goals this season. I think it's 31, the figure.
In all competitions, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a sublime number, really. And he's been, he has had a great season, let's be fair. Is it absolutely pivotal, though, that we sign him? Or do you think there could even maybe be better options about?
I don't think it's not like a Josh Madger situation for us where it's like, if we do not sign him, our season is pretty much over without him. Because I actually thought when we played Ross Stewart in the last few games, I thought Ross Stewart does a better job for us than he did. Like his movement against Lincoln in the second leg was a lot better. I know White scored a very similar goal, but the penalty that we could have had where he tried to nip it in front of the keeper, you wouldn't see Charlie White doing that there. The goal at Plymouth, where he ran all the way out to the touchline to go and get a pass and then just drove in. Again, you wouldn't have seen Wyke sort of chasing after those. So I'm quite confident going forward with Ross Stewart. I think we do need another striker, of course, but I'd be willing to go, no, it's all right. Because I've read, and I've seen things online as well, Ashley Fletcher from Middlesbrough might be getting a move to Watford to obviously go into the Premier League. So Borough will need a replacement striker, of course, and they've always been linked with Charlie Wyke anyway, and it's his hometown club, of course, there. So when it's like, even though we've offered contracts to, who is it? You said O'Nien, Hume, McGeady, and then the rumours of Charlie Wyke in negotiation with Wyke, that doesn't mean they have to say yes. They're free to leave at this point if they want to. They don't have to. They don't owe us anything at this point on here. It's just a case of, if we offer something that they want, do you know what I mean? Not what they want. That sounds like they're all money grabbing, but like just something like if we suddenly went, all right, 10 for Hume, you're not going to play any games, you're our backup. He might think, well, no, I'm going to go somewhere else, of course. So I think Wyke will probably try and play us off against Middlesbrough at this point here, just to sort of get in the best deal. But that's what you would do. Like, why would you do it any other way? Of course, there. I'd give him another deal, maybe, but no, I would. You can't ignore 31 goals in this season. I'd give him another chance at it, but I think there's a problem if we build our whole team around him again, because that's what we tried to do this year. And when he was marked out of games, we were ineffective against pretty much every team we came up against.
I think it's a really difficult decision. There's so many different things going in, and like, I've been impressed with Stewart as well, and a lot of people write him off not too long ago, and I didn't get it. I've always thought Stewart looks like a great athlete. He's a few inches taller than White. He's a heck of a lot quicker. And he just seems to have a bit more of a presence up top. I mean, I think you see it a bit more when you're in the ground, but like you say, the second leg against Lincoln, he was absolutely everywhere. Like, I saw him dropping into the midfield at times, and I mean, sometimes that's not always the smartest thing to do, but he just seems to cover a lot more distance, and he seems to offer more than what White can do. Like, White, and I don't mean this in any disrespectful way, to score 30 plus goals in a season is a great achievement. And I think what I'll always remember with Charlie White is, even before this season, he always put 100% in, and no one could deny that. But I think with Stewart,
he was also the reason we actually had an upturn in fortune under Parkinson. His selfless play from December till February, where he didn't score many, but he's the reason Maguire and Gooch got so many in their play, just because the way the team was set up. He was fantastic in those couple of months there.
He was, but I just think with Stewart, you got a bit more of a target man, like you say. The goal against Plymouth, when he got, he went out of the flank and then had to cut back in. White doesn't have the pace to do that. I mean, there's been times where I remember Stewart's first goal against Accrington. Ball goes to the box. That was his second header of the game, and he'd won them both. Now, although Wyke's been a bit renowned for scoring headed goals in the box, or rather one-touch goals in the box, in terms of an actual target man, when you look at the bottom, he doesn't seem to win a whole lot of headers. Not from the centre backs get there ahead of him. It's a really difficult one.
It's tricky, isn't it? Because it's like, how do you not offer a 31 goal a season striker a contract? But yet we all have seen the way we played when he was kept out of the games, and it was just ineffective. It's really difficult.
in my personal opinion. I think that there are better options out there. I really don't know. I think it depends on what money he wants. If he's happy to stay at the club and not have a first team spot guaranteed and not be on one of the highest paying contracts at the club, then I probably would. But if he's, I think
it depends as well what system we're going to play. So is it Speakman, Johnson, and that'll be sorting out how they want to play going forward? Because I'm pretty confident it will not be anything like what we've been doing in the last few months there, because Johnson has had to work very much with this team that he's been left with. And then, yes, he's brought in a couple of additions, but that was before KLD. So it wasn't like he just went, right, let's splash the cash on Winchester and Stewart. They were brought in under Donald's regime. So it was very much just get Grigg out, so he's off the wages, and Stewart in. He would have had a say, of course, but it would have very much been like, like when Chris Coleman was doing transfers in January, it was very much someone goes out to get someone else in, that type of things. So like that's what Stewart was for Grigg, Winchester was for Dobson going out, that type of thing. There was never sort of like a sort of, we need to spend like 4 million on a striker and we need to get him in like this, And I think if he gets a chance to go with his team and go, right, I want to play like this is how I want to play football with this team, we need this and this. Because if he's just going to do the same thing again, I think we're in trouble again. But it's you'd like to think we try something different, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it comes down to is if there's other options available. If there's another striker who we can get, who we can afford, who can offer us a little bit more than White in terms of an overall hold-up, because you can't just rely on Ross Stewart, then I think I would probably look to sign him. Like I say with White, I think it depends on what the contract is on the table. I wouldn't be bending over backwards to sign him again, put it that way. I know he scored loads of goals this season, but I think we've heavily catered the team towards him, and that's cost us in games as well. But again, Charlie White, and I don't really keep saying this about every single player, but he's one of those players where to me, he's always put 100% in since he's came with the club, and he's had a fantastic season this season. Regardless of
still should have squared it.
It's
like Harry Kane and Sterling. Yeah. Oh, everybody should have squared it.
In all honesty, when I saw that, I thought.
But then again, he did score a couple of minutes later, and we were back to 2-2. So it's not like it cost us that much. But because if he scores that, we might not get the next goal. Do you know?
Not exactly, but you also got to remember that football players are human beings, and when you're in that situation, you've got to make that decision in a split second. And just the angle he was at, he might have just thought the defender could have got there.
I think it's just because in that situation, watching it felt like it lasted so long. Because he took 2 touches after he'd gone round the keeper. It didn't feel like it was a snap decision where he's like, just shoot, and it sort of like just hit the guy. It was like you had time, you looked, and then you still did that. Do you know what I mean? It was just probably that, like you say, it's a snap decision, but like. It didn't feel as snappy as I think we're making out.
Yeah, I think we're like offer him a new contract, but I wouldn't say go to the ends of the earth to sign him back up again. And if there's other options who are better than him, players who are a little bit more like Stewart, who, to be honest with you, I think I would probably play in the final above him if we were going to go with one up top, in all honesty. I think see what else is on the market. Don't go to the ends of the earth to sign him up again. But like I say, he can hold his head up high if he does leave us. And if he goes to Middlesbrough, genuinely best of luck. I think he's done right by the club in his 3 seasons here. On to 2 more players then, 2 who have been offered contracts. Denver Hume and Luke O'Nien. In my opinion, both strong players. Luke O'Nien's played just about everywhere. Hume's missed a lot of the season through injury. Are we both quite pleased to see both of them given new contracts then? Not much to complain about there?
Yeah, this is fairly sort of standard. Hume, obviously, because he's our number 1 left back, really. On there, it is a bit annoying that our number 1 left back was able to run down his contract this far. Like, surely you would think try and get him signed up sooner to a deal, of course, and make sure it's not a possibility for him to just walk out on you. They must be fairly confident if they're willing to let McFadzean go about keeping Hume, or they just think that's how bad McFadzean is.
Like, Sunderland Sunday League and say
it's one of either, isn't it? It's like either they're confident on Hume, or that's how well they rate McFadzean, that they're like, Jesus, even if our other left back goes, you can go. Like, and Luke O'Nien makes sense. He's been a great asset for the club in every position he's played. I would really really like to see him more in central midfield next season, just because in January it looked like that's what we were going to get against MK Dons in the cup. He was central midfield, and we thought, great, this is it now. We've got him in midfield. The defence is sorted, and then McFadzean was off, Hume was off, so he was at left back, and then they swapped it, and then it was him and McLaughlin, and then he was at centre back as well. And he just never gets a break to play in midfield, really. And I just think with his energy, he'd be good in midfield as well. So yeah, they were fairly standard. We had to offer them 2 new deals, really.
Yeah, not everyone likes Hume in all fairness, but I do think he's probably out of the 2, he's got to be the strongest left back. I do think the lad's got a lot of potential going forward. Plenty of energy down the left-hand side. Defensively, I think he's probably better than some fans make out. And I think his final ball, as much as it is consistent, he does put your great ball in there. It's just about, those fine margins, just tuning things, getting things perfect.
Getting his crosses sorted.
Yeah, and I do think he could be a great option on that left-hand side going for it. He's got a lot of energy, a lot of pace, and a lot of enthusiasm as well.
It was under Parkinson where he was playing his best football for us, really. Literally every attack we had was coming down his side and in and out of the sort of players, whether he cut inside and went into the midfield or he was trying to go on the outside. I do think he'd probably be better as a wing-back if we were playing like 3 at the back and he got a chance to be bit more sort of forward, and then you could even put Gooch at the other wing backs. I thought Gooch had a good game against Lincoln in his position.
I thought he was one of the best players on the pitch.
Yeah, him and it was weird. Him and Scowen were probably the 2 best players on the day on that one on there. Really, well, I thought Scowen was good. He was just everywhere. It felt like Scowen on the day. But yeah, I think Gooch could easily play right wing back, bombing down. But you need to come back here because those 2 are young, got a lot of energy, and you'd think you've got energy to get up and down the pitch as well. Yeah, if we have 3 at the back.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on Hume. He was great under Parkinson, but I also think towards the end of Jack Ross's tenure, I think Denver Hume had a lot of good performances within those awful team performances. There was a lot of times when, as a team, we were absolutely dreadful. But Denver Hume, to me, seemed to stand out. He's a decent player. I remember games like, I think it was Southend at home, we won 1-0, and Hume crossed it in 09 and scored ahead. I mean, that's a Michael Bowers style memory, that one, Mike. So maybe not everyone will quite recall that one, but it was games like that. But I remember thinking he was always an option. He was always trying things, and it's the enthusiasm with Hume. He seems just run at players and terrify them, and he's always got that initiative to think and try. And I think you make a fair point about the wing backs as well. You want to give yourselves plenty of options, but that is one I would like to see. I did think Gooch had a great game against Lincoln, and to be fair, I think Gooch, when he tends to play a bit deeper, tends to have a better game. But the further up the pitch he goes, the more he seems to give the ball away and make mistakes.
He tries too much, whereas in defence, I think he knows there's no one behind him, so don't give the ball away.
or maybe not even in defence, but as a wing back in a midfield 5, you've got a 3 behind you or whatever. Anyway, then another player who is, to me, unfortunately left the club, Conor McLaughlin. Didn't have a great first season at the club, but I think really he's had a strong campaign this year. Always been solid defensively, if not great going forward. To me, I would have quite liked to see him stick around for another year. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think he could be sort of, I wouldn't say like fairly harshly treated. I mean, he's probably on a decent money because he came in the start of the second season, didn't he? So, and we were at that point, we just lost in the playoff final. Donald was talking about targeting a 100-point season. So you can imagine we were splashing the cash on, let's get so. And he was from the league above where he was playing regularly for, was it Millwall? I want to say that he came from.
And I think Fleetwood, before he went to Millwall, he's in the League One Player of the Season as well.
Yeah, so I don't imagine he came on the cheap. So his one's probably a case of, you've been injured a bit, you're probably on a bit of money. We'll just call it a day. That type. I don't think it's a case of he wasn't a good player, because this season he's proved that he has been a good player for us. He's been good whether he was at right back, right centre back, or even under Parkinson earlier on where he was playing as sort of wing back against Doncaster away. I think he was sort of out on that side there.
Great of a wing back. I've got to disagree with you. I just don't think he had any.
Under Ross, he was horrific. Those first few games where he came in, I just remember thinking, like, what have you signed here? He is awful, but he did all right. This season definitely was better than the last, of course. But yeah, wing back under Jack Ross in those first 3 games was like, what it was like when Glenn Leuven started for us, and everyone went, oh, he might be all right, came in the Championship, and then everyone went, oh god, get him out the team, he's awful. My favourite thing about Glenn Louvens was, do you remember, like, you would still see the team like at the hotel the night before the Portsmouth final game or something like that, and you can just see Glenn Louvens in the background with his beer, like, you're like, oh, you're still here, yeah, right, okay. It may be harsh, but I can see why. Do you know what I mean with McLaughlin?
I think the thing with Conor McLaughlin is he doesn't really offer you anything going forward, and that's not trying to dig him out. I just think it's just a type of player he is. You know, he's a defender. He's a square peg in a square hole. He'll do a decent job at right back. He's filled in really well, in my opinion, on the right of a back three, and he's even played a game or two in the centre of a back three, and I thought he did really well there. Led the defence in particular. Defensively, I think he's really, really assured. I think the season in particular, and on the ball, he's not been too bad, but he's not quick enough, and he doesn't have enough end product. He can't carry the ball well enough to offer you anything in the final third. So maybe that's why I've got rid of him. Maybe we're going to try and go down the route of having full backs and wing backs who can, you know, really help the attack out. And, you know, maybe that's what Johnson and Speakman's got in mind. But yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed to see him go, because I think this season he's had a real improvement. Looks completely different to what he was in the first season. On the other hand, two players are going to quickly rattle off who I am over the moon to see the back off. And oh my Lord, it is sweet to say the words that Remy Matthews and, more importantly, Callum McFadzean will never be playing a game of football for Sunderland AFC ever again. Very quickly, we're just going to, you know, dash over this one. We're both in agreement that we're happy to see the back of these.
Yeah, the goalkeeper more so, just because I thought every time he was in, it was just a mistake waiting to happen. Whereas even when at least Burge make mistakes, but he also then saved us in other moments. Whereas Matthews didn't have that. Matthews didn't have that to bail him out. He was just making mistakes left, right, and centre. McFadzean, he filled in okay, but nearly everything was his fault. That's the best way of saying it on there. Like, he filled in okay. When the going was good for us, he was fine. When stuff was going wrong, it was his fault.
I think he had that short period where he was quite decent. And I want to say it was in the...
Is it that honeymoon period where, like, you other guys gone up and you're like, oh, he's filling in all right. And then you actually start to watch it and go, oh, he's let his man run past him. I genuinely think he had like a 5 to 6 quite decent game run, and I want to say it was a couple of games before the final at Wembley, then again at Wembley, and then I think it was up to about the Lincoln City home game in the league where he actually... Don't forget Wembley, though. I was literally going to say he had a great game at Wembley, but he was playing against League 2 opposition.
Well, you're a decent team, to be fair.
Yeah, I know. In fairness, they only got relegated on points per game.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't go up. We're going to stop that there. But yeah, I think McFadzean, I do think he had that short, decent run on the side where, like, he stopped doing these things of, like, giving the ball away every single time he got it. And defensively, he actually wasn't too bad. But I mean, God, that, you know,
if someone got a run on him, they usually got past him. But if in terms of tackling or winning a ball, he was fine.
If the lad had any chance of getting a contract for next season, he ruined it on Saturday. I remember I think it was 94 seconds into the game, and he just passed the ball to a Lincoln player, like pretty much on the edge of the box, and had a shot. And I just thought,
God, oh, he did, didn't he? Yeah, I forgot about that.
You know, just stick, like, I don't know. Like,
you're like, you've got fans in. It's been 90 seconds, mate. 90 seconds is all it took.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you go back to games like Hull at home, and he was just torn to shreds. And you know, like I say, I think he had that really short period where he was okay, but for the most part, he's cost us a goal in just about every game he's played. He gives the ball away nearly every single time he gets it. I think he's one of them players you look back on and just say, yeah, we're just going to write your time off at Sunderland, Bonnie lad. You know what I mean? He just wasn't
cheers for being here, but, like, see, best of luck down the road.
I don't even know if I'd say that, to be honest. No, honestly, like, he just... You know, he could be a get canny lad, and I've got no doubt.
You need to do a Terry. You need to do a Terry and be like, legacy. I wish best to look for him all in the future. You need to do that.
Yeah, he was just rubbish, terrible. Remy Matthews was just exactly the same. The final player to depart the club, Grant Ledbetter, in his second stint at the club, he rejoined us in the January window of the first season.
You've forgotten one. You've forgotten Scowen.
Scowen?
Scowen's on that list too. Yeah.
Well, we'll get into Scowen after then. He's completely slipped my mind. Anyway, we'll get into Scowen after. But anyway, Ledbetter. Personally, I think he's had a decent show in this season, especially earlier on. where I thought he looked a completely different player to what he was last season. He is getting on though. How do you feel about him leaving? Do you think it could be an age thing?
Probably, probably he couldn't play. Again, I know I was critical of this earlier on this season, that he's not dead. He's like his mid-30s. He should be able to play still, but maybe he's
because you're about the same age.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm just jealous. It's probably one of them that I think they just think your time at this level is probably done. You can't be. We can't call upon you for all the times we want you to be there. Do you know what I mean? We have to pick and choose your moments. So I think it's probably one of them where they've probably both unanimously called time on this. I don't imagine him turning out for another club further down the league. You never know, he might do, but I can't imagine him being sort of like, no, I'm gonna carry on. I think this is very much where he'll go, right, I'll call it a day now.
Yeah, I think he's had a good season this season, to be honest, though. A lot better.
Doncaster goal of the season, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But it was up there. I think Maguire actually won one of the goal of the season awards. It was something, I don't know. He won one of them.
Oh, the Crew goal, yes,
yeah. But I think it was overcoming that mental struggle. But this season, a complete different player to what he was last season. And I think particularly early on in those first few games, I thought he was absolutely outstanding. Really,
he contributed a lot to our clean sheets at the start of the season, just sitting in front of the defence.
I think he held us together. He binded the squad quite a lot as well, and we just pulled the strings really nicely. And he was never gonna be flying into the final third, diving headers on the edge of the box and sticking crosses in every other minute. But I think he's done his job this season as an experienced player to sit just in front of the defence and pull the strings. And on an emotional note, I am a little bit sad to see him play his last game for Sunderland. I think you're right. This is probably the end of his career. As a player, potentially you never know, he could make it into the management side. Do you think there's maybe a role for him in the coaching setup or managerial side of the club, maybe going into next season?
I think that's what they'll probably try and do, won't they? Just to sort of, or even if it's something to do with the youngsters and stuff like that there. I think that's what they'll want out of him. And I'm sure he'd be willing to do the same unless someone else in League One offers him a decent chance. You never know.
Yeah, anyway, Josh Scowen, who of course I did forget, as you pointed out, he's had a funny old season. I think he's quite inconsistent. I mean, I've given him a lot of criticism for giving the ball away quite a lot. I know he does do a lot of the industrious work. And in all fairness, Jamal, give him credit for his game on Saturday. I thought he was one of the better players on the pitch, like you pointed out earlier. He was here, there and everywhere. And there was a couple of tactical fouls, but there was also quite a lot of times he won the ball and just could play out really well. Scowen, would you have given another year?
He's a tricky one, just because I'm thinking based on who they're thinking of. I think mine is more just a case of like who you're looking at next, like where are you wanting to go with this team next. But I suppose when you actually look at it and look at our midfield, you've let 3 of them go, and we've only kept Winchester out of the middle 4 really.
And Embleton 09 will be there next season.
Yeah, Embleton 09.
And you've got them 2 as well.
Yeah, so I think probably
as well.
And again, he might, similar to McLaughlin, he might have come on decent money, taking him from QPR in the middle of our second season, and he was still playing semi-regularly for QPR at that time. So he probably was on a decent bit of money as well. And again, I know money's not really a factor, but I just think it's probably one of them where they're just like, we can do better. Similar as Max Power, we can do better for less.
Yeah, isn't that a slogan of a supermarket company as well?
One of them.
Live better for less. If anyone knows, I go and drop.
Isn't it live well for less?
Live well for less. It has or something. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know where this conversation's going.
But I only shop at Aldi.
Do you? Oh well, fair. Aldi full of bargains.
Exactly. And they've got that. They've got that Isle of Ket where you're like, some weeks they have amazing stuff in it, some weeks they don't. You just never know what you're going to get. It's just the mystery aisle.
Nah, it is. It's wonderful. There's nothing to spruce it up than a trip to Aldi at the end of the day. But
we've gone from SAFC's retained list to shopping lists and shopping stuff now.
In about 90 seconds or something. In that period of time, Callum McFadden gave the ball away on the edge of the box to a Lincoln player. So
exactly.
Scowen, a frustrating, inconsistent player. I can see what he does. He puts the play out quite well. He does get about the pitch. He's
very divisive figure, wasn't he? Some people really liked him and others really disliked him. There's no one who ever thought he was just fine. You were on one side or the other.
Personally, I just thought he gave the ball away far too much for a centre midfielder, because when he did give the ball away back, when he did win it back, he was just far too poor to giving it straight away again. Simple little 5 to 10 yard passes became like dismantling the bomb. Like Lord behold, he was supposed to like play a crossfield ball. Like the lad just couldn't on the ball. He's just not good enough. He would, take shots on the edge of the box and it would fly out the stadium and all sorts. And don't get us wrong, and I've said it a few times, but he's one of them players you wish the best luck, because he has put in effort. No one can deny it. He runs his little socks off. He tries his little art out, and I'll always look at him quite fondly for what he does do, for his effort, if nothing else. But I just think in terms of quality, he's not quite at that level. Would you agree then with that as a decent summary, maybe?
Yeah, that's fair enough on there. I just wanted to say as well, what the best thing that will happen, or the normal thing that will happen, is all these players that will leave us will now go on to become even better than they have ever been for us, and probably show us up in next season's playoff final or something like that.
Yes, and we'll look back on this video and all these players who have been, all those ones who we've said we're happy to go.
When we're playing Sheffield Wednesday with Max Power and Scowen in their midfield, Ledbetter is their Ledbetter is their player manager, and we're just sitting there going, Jesus, we could have had all of these. Like, why are they doing so well for them? And then it's because Darren Moore is a great manager.
Will Grigg will make his way over. Conor McLaughlin will fill in right centre back of a back three.
Yeah.
I think the good way to conclude this really is, out of everything that we've discussed then, are there any changes you'd like to make out of the 3 players we've offered a new contract to White in negotiation and the 6 that have went?
I think I'd keep the 3 that we've offered, McGeady. I just think basically because he's probably settled in this area, especially with his age. He clearly can still contribute to our season massively, as he did this year with only half a season. 09 and Hume are self-explanatory, you would do. I think it's just be careful with White not to just be taken to the cleaners. He's after a move above us, I would say, but don't just go all out just because he's here. Like that was the problem that we had when it was Will Grigg. We literally just did it because he was there, more so than looking around properly or just thinking, you know what I mean? Like, we were just looking at options and then trying to cost cut, and then we still offered 4 million for him. It's just, don't do the simple option. Just make sure you do your research properly and don't get caught in a bidding war with him.
I've got a bit more faith in this recruitment team though than the other ones.
Yeah,
I feel as if our recruitment since we've come down to League One is more just being like, right, who's done a job in League One before, we'll sign him. Like, we lost Madger, we need a goal scorer. Will Grigg scored goals in this league before. We didn't look into the fact he was injured and hadn't really played much. Right, we need a centre midfielder. Max Power's been promoted before. We need another left back. Reece James has done well in this league before. There was no real thought process a lot of the time. I think out of the ones we went through, I'm happy the 3 we've offered contracts to. Again, with White, I would just say be careful. I think that the other 2 that I'm kind of raising an eyebrow will be Conor McLaughlin. I would have, depending on money, of course, I would have liked to see him stay. I think he could have offered us something of a decent defensive option on the right hand side and make sure nothing comes down. Not, because he was cutting out a lot of loose balls, and I think he was a decent defender. And Chris Maguire, of course, but I think
that's a nostalgia one, I think, though, with Chris Maguire.
Maybe it is, but I think it's more that
I was still gutted when we were letting Aaron Nosworthy go, but I knew he wasn't going to play any games for us in that when he was behind Mensah and Turner and that.
I think if Lee Johnson wasn't here, it would be no shadow of a doubt renew his contract. But because Johnson is the head coach and he's the one who's going to be selecting the team week in, week out, I think if he was going to be sacked, it would have been done already by now. I think that the club's going to go forward with him. I think when you consider that, it probably is time to go. But if Johnson wasn't in charge, and I would have looked at him as someone who can add a lot to us going forward. Anyway, I think that's us just about done. Of course, Thursday Night Live, the lads will be back. I'm not sure what the lineup is. I know I'm working, so I won't be able to come on. But I think all the lads are going to go through each individual player, rate them, how they've done this so far this season, see which ones they would have kept. So largely similar tonight. Get the rest of the lads' thoughts on it. Dino, Philly and the crew, etc. But Conrad, thanks for joining us. It's been a real pleasure.
No problem, mate. Thank you for having me.
No, it was a real pleasure to sit and talk about the players. Of course, let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. I want to say thank you for watching as well. If you haven't already, please do like the video. Subscribe to SAFC Fan TV if you haven't already. There's going to be plenty of content coming between now and the start of next season. Make sure to tune in on Thursday as well for the rest of the lads' thoughts on the players we went through and probably other players we haven't even mentioned as well. But for myself and Conrad and everyone at the channel, thank you for watching. Take care, stay safe, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.